Yes, guys, welcome back to the instant reaction on TDK Plus. Brentford 1, Arsenal 1 in the Premier League. Arsenal, what's the opposite of stretch? Relinquish? That's not the opposite of stretch. Lead to 4 points over Man City in the Premier League. We're here to react, to break down, to talk. I don't quite know how I'm going to do a podcast because I feel like I'm about to cry. But we will try. We will do our best. Thank you all for joining us live, and all of you on TDK Plus as well. Hope you're all doing better than me right now. George, we'll start with our headlines. I will start with mine, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the Premier League. Horrible. That was a horrible, horrible experience. I hated that. Firstly, credit to Brentford. We should say that. We're going to talk a lot about our issues this evening, but I just want to, at the top, say Brentford were brilliant this evening. Physically, were better than us, which is not acceptable. Were more up for it than us, which, when there's so much on the line, is not acceptable. Executed better than us, dealt with the situation better than us, so credit to them. But that was bad. That was really... I'm not happy with that performance. I think sometimes we come, we go, oh, it was a good point, this, that, and the other. There's a lot of things this evening I'm looking at and going, I don't like that. So, yeah, it's not panic stations yet. We are 4 points clear. There's a long route to the season to go. This is ultimately, I would say, the second hardest away game we will play. And I always knew it was going to be tough. Like, I was not walking into this Brentford game. Like, I don't know how you were feeling, but we didn't speak before. But I was not walking into this thinking this would be easy. But that was poor from us, and there's some stuff to rectify. Give me a headline and your reflections.
Lack of presence between the lines has been a problem for a while. And it's one of those games in which I feel that there was a lot of times that we sacrificed the narrative to Brentford and allowed them to play their game. But I also knew that we would struggle to have the solution because we lost the two players that would have. And, that injury with Kai Havertz deflated me. I mean, we didn't get a chance to really speak pre-match, but that really deflated me because I knew what type of game this would be. It would be a game in which there would be long balls into the channels, and our ability to control the second ball, but then find somebody between the lines was going to be vital. And we didn't have it. We didn't have someone to work off of through the middle of the park. No one to really receive, and it became a long game in terms of us pumping it long quite a bit. And I don't think we did enough in combinations on the wings to make it stick a little bit more. And it was a case of, it could have worked if we had worked the wings a little bit better than we had. I think there was moments, and, you're even looking at the Odegaard chance as far as the cutback there was opportunities to do that a lot more. But then I started seeing the Timber thing in the half spaces, and I started seeing Timber being the one to burst on, and I started seeing Timber be the one to get the last two chances through the match in which he's the last man running off the last line, and that annoys me. So, when we talk about presence between the lines, I don't think that Eze had a good game. I don't think he can be upset at being subbed off, and I don't know if I felt that Odegaard had replaced him well enough in the second half, and there is an issue at number 10 right now. There's an issue in terms of playing through the center of the park, and there's an issue in terms of playing over teams when you don't have Kai Havertz and Mikel Merino available. And it's one of those things in which I walked in knowing that option wasn't there. So, and Brentford know that was the best way for them to hurt as well. So it was like, I felt like I just got taken my best ace card out from under me, in which the game would have been very different, in my opinion, had we had that. And then when we didn't, it was on us to try to adapt. And I don't think we did a good enough job of that.
I agree. Before the game, sorry to do... I was right, but I tweeted, no Havertz or Merino is a worry. Brentford will press us quite aggressively, I think, knowing we don't have an outball. Big day for the sides of the pitch. And it's a real shame. And I don't think it takes I'm certainly not saying that's genius analysis. I think everyone knew that walking into that game. So it's a real shame that we couldn't make it work on the sides of the pitch in terms of our 1v1s, in terms of the overlaps, time the overlaps correctly, in terms of the combinations. And yeah, you're right in terms of the presence in the centre of the park. Ironically, George, I think Gyökeres might have had his best game in terms of hold up for Arsenal. Like in terms of like specific moments, he might have had his best game, but ultimately that's not his bag. So he's going to be inconsistent, and it's going to become a bit of a black hole at times. And Raya was going long to him consistently because Brentford were pressing onto us, and he was doing his best, Gyökeres. And there were some really good moments, but that's not who he is. So we had to find different ways. I'm really struggling at the minute with this team's tendency to pass first rather than carry. We have such brilliant carriers. We have such brilliant ball carriers. Eze, Rice, Miles, Calafiori, all these guys Timber even, who can carry through the center of the pitch, but it feels like we just want to pass around. We just want to go around, and it's sucking everyone deep. It's creating these big chasms. I felt the spaces were massive this evening in terms of we're trying to stretch Brentford because they were in the 4, trying to stretch them both ways, I felt. So you have to have a big game for a carry or for influence between the lines, as you're saying, with an Eze who can turn and make things happen and combine inside. I also felt when we're going long as well, George, we're going to Gyökeres, and even if he does hold it up, Noni's got chalk on his boots. Trossard's got chalk on his boots. So why are you going long when there's no one to give the second ball to? So much frustration for me how we played, and we'll get more into that. Anomi 333 became YouTube member. Thank you so much. Just do a couple of super chats before we carry on. Ivan Smith, I have to remember who we're missing today. Mosquera and Odegaard were good for the most part, but losing Saliba and especially Havertz and Marina was always going to make today tough. R.I.P. Lou. Sorry, I don't know who that refers to, but R.I.P. Lou. Yeah, I think Saliba was always going to be a miss. I don't think this game massively shifts on Saliba for me. I thought Mosquera was pretty good. It had some nice recovery moments. But Havertz and Marina was the big issue, and we'll sort of stick on that in a second, George. John says, get me off the boat if number 8 is our captain. Don't worry, Mikel, we'll shout at them again. It's worth bombing us out of the team for that captain's performance. Shaky from minute 1. My head is on Mars. Yeah. Ez is a problem, George. And Odegaard's a problem. And I don't think it's because they're bad players. I really don't buy that. I think it's the instruction, and I think it's the what's going on around them. There was a moment where I went, this isn't right. I literally said that out loud. This isn't right. Eze picks up the ball. For one of the first times he turns and he's looking forward, and Gyökeres is static on the last line. There's no one he can pass to. So if you're asking for passes into zone 14, if you have a centre forward who isn't moving and is occupying centre backs, I don't know what you want. And all he can do is play a pass to Jurian Timber, our right back, who's in the right half space, who picks it up. And of course, Lewis Potter, whoever it was, he can't get past him because that's not his bag. That's not who he is. We have to look at Arteta for this performance, and I don't like these attacking dynamics. I really don't.
There's 2 players that I really frustrated me in that first half, and that was Martin Zubimendi and that was Eze, who I both don't think did enough to show. And then when they did go to turn, I mean, the difference between the first half and the second half, in which I felt like there was an improvement, was simply Declan Rice carrying from deep, willing himself to go and make things happen. And, look, there's a part of me that goes like, would William Saliba made a difference? I do think his carries from deep, because we refuse to carry the ball from deep to get out of the press, could have made a difference for them maybe to receive higher up. But when we do look at our close combinations and we do start to see these rotations in which Timber comes in the half spaces, and we start to question the presence of who is receiving in those pockets, that is a question that I don't feel that we ask enough questions of. And, I don't think we do enough to facilitate our best players in those positions. It's really as simple as that for me. And when you look at a game in which was getting away from you from a second ball perspective, I start to look at how is your ability to clamp those second ball games. And if the ball is going over the middle of the park and back and forth like a ping pong match, at some point, somebody needs to put their foot on the ball and say, calm down. Let's string a couple passes, a couple boring passes, and get the energy out of the match a little bit. And if I'm being honest with you, I thought that a lot of people would have looked at Martin Zubimendi to do that. I would have thought that a lot of people would have looked at Eze to do that. A lot of people would have looked at Martin Odegaard to do that. And, it frustrates me because we've sent a kid out on loan who now, the whole reason that we have done so, the coach has left for it. And there is a hole in this team as far as having presence between the lines. And I do think that we all underestimate the impact of having an ability to go over the top of a press. These games like Brighton, these games like Aston Villa, the games like Brentford, the games like Nottingham Forest, hard running physical teams, if you don't have an ability to backboard yourself, you're going to be in trouble, and it's going to demand a level of technical consistency to break out in combinations through the sides. We didn't have that technical consistency in the first half. We weren't completing our passes. We were making very easy decisions. And to me, part of the problem is that there aren't enough people taking responsibility to take the game through the center of the park. And for as much as we had a press conference that I hoped and had hoped that it was everything I heard as far as bravery goes, this was a match in which I don't think that bravery was shown. I think that after that second half, there was clearly an intensity jump, clearly something that Mikel said, because I do think that we started the second half well. But to me, it's really poor to have basically played very poor in the first half up until the last 10 minutes, had a jump from the second half till when we scored, and then from that point lacked any impetus to really drive forward. And a lot of our problems, in my opinion, come from running in transition, having a consistent physical outlet over the top of a press, and being able to generate shots from the top of the box consistently enough. And I can't hide how upset I am that I think our title rivals recruited that. I can't hide that these are the exact type of games that I had wanted something different right now. And it's frustrating because I do think that we could have done it. I do think that our decisions have led us to an ability not to do it. And now we've kind of almost, in a sense, made our own bed. And we're complaining about a lot of the same things. When, you see that Declan Rice is performing well in the second half and he's driving, why isn't Miles Lewis-Skelly allowed that opportunity to do the exact same thing? And we start to add our really physical shuttlers in the middle of the park. Why? I find it really difficult to justify doing the same thing in periods in which we're looking for inspiration. And again, I think my biggest frustration in the match is that this was self-made, and less so on the points. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it as far as what the impact goes on the title race, and as far as Brentford's form, 2 wins at home. They've only conceded 2 wins at home. It's a tough place to go to. All the context in the world doesn't matter when you're sitting there chasing and you're seeing problems that I think we could have fixed. And it was frustrating for me because I felt as though that 11 was balanced today. I looked at that 11 and I thought, you know what, that was a very balanced 11. However, when I start to look at the match and I start to look at people trying to put a little bit of impetus through the middle of the park, I don't think our technicians, our technical leaders in the team stepped up today. And it's frustrating because they are prime age players, and I think they need to step up. And it's about the technique. It's the technical leaders of this team. I'm looking at Martin Zubamendi. I'm looking at Eze. I'm looking at Martin Odegaard.
Yeah, and that's why we don't want to consider ourselves bottlers or that in any sense. We don't want to. We refute that, and I don't believe that. But then you see a performance like that, and you go, well, I have to consider it. I have to at least look at it. I can't just go no because I don't want it to be true. That can't be that isn't good analysis of any situation. And there's a situation, and this isn't Rice is the furthest away from being in that conversation, but there's a situation where, sorry, I've connected 2 thoughts that aren't connected. Separate thought. Back to the central access thing. There's a moment in maybe the first 10 minutes of the second half where Rice goes through and Brentford are like shocked that he's carrying, because we just haven't done it literally all afternoon. There's space in the he's just carrying, and you can see he's looking around going, oh, I'm just going to be allowed to carry here. I'm going to be allowed to carry here. And Gyökeres is on the loss side. There's literally the perfect, easy slide-in pass, but it's almost too easy. It's almost too un-Arsenal to just literally carry through the middle of the pitch and play a pass directly between the sticks of the goal to the striker. Go watch it back. People will see it. And it's like, it's the most obvious pass, but he just goes, oh no, I sort of can't do that, and plays it to the side, and we put another half-space cross into the box. And that's the bravery. That's the ingenuity that this team is lacking to just recognize certain situations. Even there was a couple of moments where we didn't create many chances. Martinelli, take that first time, bro. Take it first time. This is why with the mentality question thing is asked. Why are you taking a touch there? Shoot. Just shoot. Trossard's the only one who would just shoot in that situation. He is just, I'm going to create a moment of separation. This game needs a shot. Everyone else is touch. I'm going to go around the block. I'm going to pass it. I'm going to block it. And I get it. It keeps us high. It keeps us in waves of attacks. I do get it. But at some point, you need to flip that in your mind and go, no, this game is, 60 minutes. They just, we just scored. We need to put this to bed. Right. I'm going to have a shot now. Sorry to put on Declan Rice because this isn't really Declan Rice. This is the team in general. This is Declan Rice this evening. This isn't really Declan Rice, but he was sort of guilty of it a little bit. He did it again. There was a moment where he had the ball in the 6-yard box and he passed it to the left. He passed it to Gyökeres. Just shoot, bro. It's that simple at points. It's like, and that's why we get accused of this. I think it's so frustrating. And yeah, I come back to it that the center of the pitch is a massive issue. And when that keeps happening over and over again, you have to look at the coach. And it is how he's profiling our team. Let's look at the stats. 1 goal to 1, as we know. 1.5 expected goals to 0.8. 12 shots to 7 from Arsenal. 3 shots on target to 2. 4 open play shots to 4. 40% possession to 59.8. I'd be interested to see what that was like in terms of the first half versus the second half. 24 final third entries to 53, 1.8 expected threat created to 2.3, 31 deep touches to 39, and 5 zone 14 touches to 23. There's the running XG across the match. Suspect that was Igor Thiago's chance from the header. He probably should have scored another. Igor Thiago
late on in the game too.
Yeah,
really
he should have scored another. That's the Martinelli chance where you just got to take that first time. You just have to. And I swear, if Arteta uses that in his post-match, Martinelli has the chance to bury the bro. There is the shot map across the night. Not loads for Arsenal really at all, which is a real shame. But we did nearly get 69% on field tilt, George, and that would have made everything better, wouldn't it? There's a while I don't know if you got any. I'm sure you got some reflections. I'm just going to find something that I saw. It's a pass map into the final third. I think it just sums everything up. But just give me a sec to try and find it. Speak. There you go. Good hosting.
Yeah. No. I really feel as though you're put into a position to change things. And when I have a look at that field tilt and I look at the last, what I'd say roughly like 10 minutes, and then up until the point that we scored, and then beyond that, it looked like we lost control of the game. That to me is where the frustration lies. And the frustration lies a little bit more as far as what we're able to do to change games at this point. And, I would like to see certain things that are different. I have a look at Jurrien Timber, who I thought struggled in this match, who I thought has been struggling. And I'm looking at things that we can do in order to change some of our wide combinations. If it's not working, let's make a little bit of a difference here. And if we're looking towards reasons as to why I feel like we sometimes panic in which the game's drawn, in which we just send to basically throw on attackers. And to me, it doesn't seem like there's a consistent plan to change it. And, I think also I can't ignore that Mikel Merino and Kai Havertz are huge tactical misses as far as being able to play a different way. But to me, there's been far too many times in which we look at the right-hand side and that it has not been performing. And I think that Jurrien Timber is somebody that has contributed to that. And I think that Ben White gives us certain things that are different. And I think that right-hand side and the right winger performs a different role when it is a Ben White type of fullback that's playing. I look at Piero Hincapié, who I actually thought had a good game in the first half and actually was playing well, delivering some really good crosses. And then we bring on a Calafiori who does offer you something different there. Martinelli, who does offer you something different. I can understand the difference in the partnership there. But you, at the same token, almost remove an Eze in combination with Martinelli and hope for Martinelli to do the same role that Trossard was doing for Gyökeres. And that, to me, isn't logical. If there was going to be a difference, to me, it would have made sense if you had Jesus come on so that Martinelli can be the one running in behind. I just don't know why the decisions to put them on. It just seemed like put on attackers, hope the attackers will do something. So that was probably something that frustrated me in this match. And you can kind of look at the pass map here as far as the combinations on the side being what we had to do and how absent the center of the pitch is. But again, I also don't want to ignore when you don't have a backboard, you can expect that. But the problem is I don't look at many passes that have entered the top of the box. They have all been recycled up and down the touchline. And the amount of in-swinging crosses that you see there are really poor. The amount of cutbacks that you generate are really poor. And so to me, that's a huge issue. Huge issue.
Yeah. It's also a huge issue. There's different ways to skin a cat. We're looking at passes, right?
Yeah.
And this would be okay. Like, I'd be like, okay, you know, maybe the pass, if we were seeing driving runs inside from Eze or Rice or Odegaard or Saka, who I thought had a poor cameo, like, you know, if we were seeing that, and you're also seeing in terms of successful passes, so the Blues are obviously successful and the Reds aren't. Look at those long passes. If you're consistently going long, and it's just error after error after error after error, you have to find a different way. As I say, I actually thought, I don't think this includes goal kicks from the keeper, because there was a lot down the center of the pitch. I actually thought your Chris had a pretty good evening from a hold-up perspective, but this is a good evening. You know what I mean? So it's really, really frustrating, and the amount we get stuck in these areas, and the tempo we play at for such long periods of the game. It feels like, I was sort of thinking the first time when we scored, you know, your brain goes to somewhere and you're sort of kind of justifying, and you're going, okay, you know, maybe this team is, you know, quite mature, and, you know, they just sort of grow into games. But I think a lot of it is maybe could be viewed that way. But I think for me, we spent so much time in first halves this season dicking around, basically. Like, sort of just not going for the jugular, sort of working out the game, because we believe we have the squad to do it, and we believe that we have the capacity to do it. And we think, you know, okay, well, let's just sort of grow into this game and see where it goes. You don't always have that time, and it has hurt us a number of times. Our record in the first half versus the second half this season is pretty alarming, considering how many goals, how many chances we create in the first half compared to the second half. And sometimes that works. Sometimes the squad comes on and we're all sat there, you know, it's 2-3-0 against Sunderland, and we're going, hey, presto, we're fine, right? But in these games, that's when it becomes a problem. And sometimes I want to see us come out of the blocks firing. Sometimes I want to see us come out with energy and pressing ourselves onto the game, not working out what the game could be. Let's us be the protagonists, rather than allowing someone else to tell us what the game might be, because we can play so many games. And it's like, okay, what, are we going to play a running game, a passing game, a dueling game, a ball in behind game? And we're so good at that. But sometimes I want us to see us go, this is the game we're playing today. We are playing a running game, or we are playing a transition game, or we are playing a pass you to death game, or we are playing the carry game, or whatever it might be. I want us to be the protagonists. And I feel like so many times this season, we just haven't been. Mojoman, why does Eze feel so nonchalant? Show more, please. Yes, it's always a mix of him and the context, but I think this evening I'd look more to the context. But in the course of the season, maybe there's a conversation about him to be had. It's results like these and the fan meltdowns that remind me of Tom Canton saying some Arsenal fans just aren't ready to win the league. Relax, man. Look, you're half an hour after a difficult evening where we have shot ourselves in the foot. You're not going to get people happy about that. I think when emotions calm, yes, absolutely, we're 4 points clear. We still have to go to the Etihad. It's still absolutely in our hands. As I sit here today, I think Arsenal still win the title. I think I said yesterday on a podcast, I give us a 5% chance of the quadruple. You know, we are still that team, but these flaws have to be addressed. They have to be, and they hurt us this evening.
Things hurt more when you do it to themselves, you know, and
exactly.
You know, and that's really what it is. You know, I'll be here to talk about context all day long. I'll be here to talk about how good Brentford are at home. I'll be here to talk about how you're going to a game without Havertz, Marino, Odegaard, Saka, Saliba starting and expecting there to be a guaranteed win. There is something there in which, you know, there's context. But I think the problem that I have really for me is it seems like I'm noticing a pattern that when we go ahead, I am seeing a willingness to let off the intensity. whether that means slowing down the tempo, whether that means dropping the line back, whether that means sacrificing play. There's a willingness to allow another team back into it after we have scored. And I don't like that. That to me was, the biggest problem. And when we saw that press conference, as far as being brave and encouraging those things to play forward and having an honest conversation, those were the type of things that I was looking to change. And, from my perspective, like when the game goes 1-0 up, it's not to let Brentford take control of the match. It's to continue pushing. It's to continue dominating and dictating the story. And that to me has been my biggest frustration. We've talked a little bit about the technical level, and I think that we need to have a conversation with our technical leaders of the team, because it's unacceptable to me. I think it's unfair on Trossard, because I think he's been probably the most consistent technical leader of the season, but he was also not great in the first half today. Along with your Eze.
I actually don't agree on Trossard. I think Trossard was the one player I felt didn't let himself down.
I mean, he was better because I think a lot of our attackers were really poor, but I still think that he gave away a lot of passes in the final third. And to me, there was just no one sticking with the ball in the final third. And there was moments in which I felt like Trossard had an opportunity to release and it was a poor pass. But, he keeps going. So I don't want to really rag on him, because he was the farthest from the worst one on the pitch at that point. Because, you look at, I thought Madueke was the one that really struggled in the first half to me. That was the one that really frustrated me. And of course, he gets the goal a little bit later. So it shows his persistency as far as that's concerned. But the ability for our attackers to combine well enough has been something that we haven't seen. And so that's why I look to the technical leaders of the team, broadly speaking. And I struggle with it, because I wouldn't call Gyökeres a technical leader, so I don't expect that from him. I look at Madueke, I don't think he's a technical leader. I would look at Trossard, I would look at Eze, Zubimende. I think Gabriel Magalhaes, hate to be that person, I don't know if he's been very good for a while in terms of his progression from deep. There's been a lot of instances, and even today at the start, some of his passing is just inviting pressure. And David Raya at the beginning, like the first half, the technical level of the first team in the first half was really poor. And it was frustrating because we didn't give ourselves an opportunity to set the tempo. And, there were some moments in which I thought that Raya made some bad decisions. And then ironically, like, he makes a good save, and I thought he really grew into the match. But again, it was that first half in which I felt like there was really a lack of technical care to a lot of our passing, and didn't allow us to string more than 5-10 passes together. I'd be interested. I don't know if there's stats in there. How many times do we string more than 10 passes in a row?
The connections
in the first half. So
the Adnarnik says time to have conversations on Saka, and was very insistent we do that. Time to have the Saka conversation, the Adnarnik said later. For me, we can have it on the main pod maybe. But I don't think this is the evening to have it. I don't think he was fit. I think he was pushing himself to be available. Saka's not had his best season, and I think there is a conversation to be had about that. But for me, tonight's not the night to talk about Saka. I think we should talk about it at some point. Random man, could have been 9+ clear. Now look at the team crumbling again. Genuinely pathetic. Our last 6 Premier League results, George, after 5 wins in a row from that Wolves game onwards, have been Arsenal 0, Liverpool 0, Nottingham Forest 0, Arsenal 0, the 2-3 against United, the 4-0 against Leeds, the 3-0 against Sunderland, the 1-1 against Brentford. So 2 wins in the last 6. 3 draws, but 2 wins in the last 6. That form, there's no discussion really about it. It's just not good enough. Mike Watts, it's like when Saliba isn't there, our build-up stinks. Every ball was long. Timber has to be dropped. He's been poor for a month. Too many players hiding. I am not feeling as low on Timber as maybe you and this commenter are. What's your issue?
I don't think he's been good with the ball and his usage of the ball. And many times I really struggle that he's the one that seems to be on the last line. And when he does get the ball in the final third, there's far too many times in which he receives, takes a turn, delays the pass, and then recycles the ball.
But that for me is more about his instruction and usage. That, like, I wouldn't ask him to. If I put Gyökeres at centre back, I wouldn't then blame him for being bad at centre back. It's just not.
I think he needs to be more quicker with his passes in the final third. In fact, when he first came, a big thing that I felt like was that he was early with his passes when he got in higher zones. It was more deeper in which he had a little bit slower passing progression. And to me, if you're an inverted fullback and your main thing is to underlap, and you're somebody that is more of an inverted fullback as opposed to an overlapping fullback, if that is your strength and that is the type of profile that you have, then you need to show a better passing influence in those zones if you're the one that is being asked to receive it. And if you're going to be slowing the play down, if you're not going to be playing the ball forward, if you're going to be blocking the run from a more attacking player to come inside, then it's going to lead to frustration. I mean, for me, Ben White has an ability to have a deep cross that Timber refuses to show. That I think he has. I don't think that he doesn't lack the technique to do it. But Ben has consistently been able to play the ball early over the top of a fullback in between the channel. And Timber hasn't shown that. Timber has consistently been the one that has held on to the ball far too long, in my opinion, waits for it, and is too concerned with baiting somebody to then have a kind of pirouette and then knock the ball out to the wide. But what you're doing is you're allowing the opposition to come to you. And you're not playing the ball forward enough where you can catch them. And these quick combinations from the side, they need to facilitate somebody breaking free through the center. You can't keep having the ball come in, be the one to recycle, turn, and come back again. And then when you are found in higher positions, the only thing that I'm seeing is you running off the last line. That's it. You're not really offering yourself as an option. You're not offering yourself as a wall pass. You're not offering yourself as an option to hit in the box. And so for me, it's frustrating.
I agree on the releases. I think for me, I look more to why is he being put there the whole time, as more of the diagnosis than necessarily a Timber issue. But I agree on the releases. I think defensively he's beyond reproach for me in many things, specifically in the air this evening. I thought he was really, really good. So, John says, on a positive, Gyökeres was our best attacker. I don't agree. I thought Trossard was our best attacker, but I think Gyökeres, as I said, had a good evening from a hold-up perspective. Another game where a lead is followed by a period of uncontrolled transitions. First time I'm thinking this team is mentally struggling to cope. Yeah, I mean, back to that point from earlier. I think when you go ahead and you drop off so consistently after us, when you have such difference in first half to second half, when the technical level goes, those are all the signs that there's a mental component at least to some of this, and that's it's a concern. AJ Bradley says, I'll support the boys, but it seems like it's too big of an ask for a lot of them. I don't know. I don't know if it's too big an ask. I think they have the capacity to win the league, and I think they will. I still believe they will.
I don't like going to the mentality points. I do think that fundamentally we really lack an ability to go over the top of a press, which everybody is refusing to ignore. And like when you look at every team in the league, I looks at these types of teams, and
I don't think this is tactical though, George. I think this is, people are referring to this period of the season where things seem to go awry, and we're back to technical level dropping off, losing your duels, running. Like it's that stuff. I think that's what they're referring. I don't think this is about a specific tactical thing here.
I don't know. For me, I have to say, like, my big highlight of today is the presence or between the lines. To me, it's been an issue, and that to me is a tactical point. As far as it being something that
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing. It's a tactical point. I'm saying I think the commenters are saying, and I think they're right to say this isn't about a one game issue. By the way, this has been an issue in other games, but I think the point is more stepping up to the plate in various contexts, when we do have Havertz, when we don't have Havertz, when we have Marino, when we don't have whatever. I think that's for me. I don't think we can reduce it down to a tactical point here.
Maybe. I don't know. I have more questions of Mikel, especially when I look at things like if we're asking greater carries from deep at that point, and you're seeing yourself that I'm just going to say, I think to me that Miles is an opportunity to do that. Calafiori is an opportunity to do that. Like, why wait so long when you see that Declan Rice at the start of the second half, the biggest bright spot is that man once again carrying through the center of the pitch to make things happen. And it was far too often in this match in which we saw our technical leaders drop high that I expect them to do a bit more of. So for me, a lot of it is if you remove one solution that you know will work, because we just don't have the players, right? So remove the Marino Havertz, you just can't go over the top. So you're left with going around or through a team because you don't have the solution to go over the top. It's context, I think, that is fair. But then it's like, okay, how do I improve going around or through a team? And it's quite simple for me that I don't think that we do or change enough within our own team to allow that. And a lot of times it's frustrating. Like, I can only sympathize with Declan Rice. I really feel that that is a man that's possessed to want to win the league for us. And it's frustrating to see him consistently be the one to try to turn the tide. And it's not like we don't have that skill of bravery to carry through the middle of the park and other players. And I'm not seeing them being given the opportunity to do that. And I'm trying to ask myself, what are different ways that we can do to change this with the players that we have available? And I guess I'm not seeing enough invention in either intent or the personnel that we use to change that. And to me, that's where I'd look at, okay, like, we can talk about mentality if we want to talk about it, but I struggle with the mentality point when we put ourselves into a position like this, but then we keep redoing the same things that even in the time that we were good, we still lacked this ability. When we did go up, we still were ones that were sacrificing the territory and doing these things and not having enough carriers from deep. And those things still happened when we were, quote unquote, doing well, getting results, etc.
Fine, but then this isn't an AI system where put in more carrier. There's an emotional component to those decisions, and that's what I think people are questioning. Is you're not wrong in terms of your tactical diagnosis, but there's an emotional component to that is consistently whatever the tactical issue might be. There's an execution, there's a decision, there's a bravery aspect to it, which people are questioning. I think they're fair enough. You know, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I think that's the point that's being made. Timber, going forward, conversations need to be had, says Veer Ranpara. Spoke about that. Thank you for super chat. Norgard at 10, experiment for an outball. 9 guard. Here we go. Jamal, our chance creation is way too inconsistent. In certain games, I think you're right. I think across the season, our chance creation is all right with moments that we can improve. O'Malley, Arteta threw away a whole first half as a second striker is clearly not working. We persisted with it for 45 minutes and no changes, despite Brentford outnumbering us. Also, give Timber a rest. It could be an aspect of it, certainly with Timber. Maybe there's the physical component there. Yeah, I think making a change in the first half, you're saying we persisted with it for 45 minutes with no changes. If you mean by personnel, I think you've got to give people a chance to sort of try and work it out. But I think we did get back into the game in the sort of second half of the first half. I did feel that. James says, feels like no inspiration when needed all season. This is a point, and I was sort of hoping this would be the game. I mean, Gabriel against Newcastle is the one, and I'm sure that, you know, maybe the Wolves game late on. Feels like we haven't had that late energy, that late spark, that late sort of moment many times this season. It feels like once we go behind, or once a team score against us, about, you know, once United scored, what was it, about the 87th minute, I was like, we're not scoring again. And I know it was kind of sucker punch. I go back through certain games. I'm just looking at the results here. That obviously the Villa game was super late, but, you know, I never felt we were going to be the ones in that Villa game, let's say at the Villa Park, to score that final goal. It felt like Villa were pressing onto us. They were trying to find the winner, and it felt like we weren't. And I think that is a concern. And again, back to at least opening the questions from a mental perspective, because, you know, that's a consistent thing across the season. Shay, struggling to see where Eza costs 67.5 million. Raphael says this league is going to be decided at the Emirates. Let's hope so. Time to have the Saka conversation. Says, I had that earlier. Jamie. Hey, Jamie. Loving the content, fellas. We'll be all right. You're saying we. You're a Wimbledon fan. My main man, 90, says, our best chance would be nicking wins for the final games. Too static, a tad too laggard during free balls. Labored, maybe. Tempo and technical issues all over the place. Tempo is another thing we haven't necessarily discussed, which I think was a concern. I think specifically with when Odegaard's on the pitch, we do go to one tempo, and it's who he is. That really works in certain game states and certain times, but especially when you're chasing a goal, it frustrates me. It does frustrate me.
I'm really struggling here because I think that there's got to be a level of people taking some individual responsibility in the team, and there is a little bit of pacificity and a lack of aggression, and the best thing that I can say is, like, if it's not your day technically, I would have wanted a really suffocating press man to man in which we're trying to go and close down, but we didn't get that, and it like the tempo point to me is that, okay, fine, maybe it's not your day technically and you're trying things, fine, but we can beat them and run harder than them. And I don't think that we did when we go up. And that's what frustrates me. And it leads to the bad tempo and it leads to those things. And, some of those things are related to fitness when you're playing every 3 days and you're going to have your moments in which we're exiting a Christmas period that is the hardest point in the season. And then, these things do improve a little bit later. So I can see these games happening, but it's just far too often to me. And I don't know. I'd love to see like somebody go back, but it's almost like, I don't know if it's when we concede and draw, because I remember saying, like, in Christmas and November, that we actually got the results, but the performances weren't good with those type of games. But I do feel we go up consistently 1-0, our tempo drops. Now, maybe we salvage it like 20 minutes later, but the 5-10 minutes after we go 1-0 up, I have this feeling, I don't know if there's any stats to back it up, our tempo gets killed and we invite pressure. We become more passive as a team. And that frustrates me. That's something that I don't like. And I think that's been a pattern all season, personally. Yeah. I don't have any stats to back it up. Maybe someone smarter can go back and have a look at that. Like the first 5-10 minutes after us going 1-0 up.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Vijay says, why did it feel like our midfield didn't exist too many times? They just ran right through us over and over again. Yeah, I think they stretched us really, really well this evening. That casket-shaped hole in our pass map is haunting, says George. Certainly. Genuinely, do we have the mentality to get it over the line? I have to seriously question it now. We always give City a chance. Groundhog Day yet again. Yeah, look, I don't want it to appear like it's the mentality. There were bigger issues this evening, but you can't. I think I understand you don't want to go to the mentality thing, but we have to at least take it into account when it feels like it may not be true and the data might not back it up and yada yada. But it's certainly there's a sense that around this time every season we start to get a little bit shaky, a little bit, and we have these games like this where we just can't sit. We it doesn't feel like we're at the races, let alone if we were dominating, and I wouldn't even be entertaining this conversation, but we just look second best. And that's my concern. Ato signed the only guy to strengthen the first 11. Zubimendi? Oh, Zubimendi. Oh, yeah. Yeah, arguable. Berta is a genuine horror of a sporting director. Let's be honest, says Cole.
I don't know about that. I don't know about it. I don't know about that. I don't. One thing that I've maintained is I've questioned the fact that we spent 175 million pounds on attackers that I don't think moved the needle enough. I said that back in the summer. I questioned it, and we simply have. And there's a lot of people that have said we've done the squad approach. I haven't always agreed with that personally as the mentality. Back in the summer, I think the only ones that'll know ultimately, I mean, we've had so many injuries that it's tough to argue because the squad has been important and we've seen it used so many times this season. But I do think also we've seen us lose games because we didn't have that type of threat that I think that we were looking for. And it's at least a question when you've spent that much money and you look at the base output of all three of those attackers that we did buy, and it's nearing on 200 million pounds invested. And it's just not good enough. Whether you like certain players or you don't like certain players, the output hasn't been good enough. And, that is going to frustrate you. Now, does that matter when in the run-in they start to take you over the line and at the end of the day, you rest them enough that the starters end up scoring? Then yeah, like we can have that conversation. But that's going to be hindsight with May, Yeah. And I just feel that this team hasn't had enough inspiration. And I look towards it. The three things that we've talked about: physical outlet over the top of a press has been something that we can't guarantee without certain players. and we've played most of the season without one. We have really bemoaned the lack of genuine shoot on sight ability within the box and in and around the box consistently enough. And we've really struggled with the intensity in transition, which I think we recruited players that could give us it. And I don't know if I felt confident enough that I've seen it. And so those are three things that I'd be looking towards the summer. Like, I'm looking at the squad and I'm saying we still lack those things, even after all that recruitment.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you mind just taking, I think your phone's on the, thank you, mate. Feels like that loss versus Villa at the end of 23-24. Not quite that bad, but it wasn't nice. Avira says Big Abby without Saliba at centre back. ...
I don't like him at central centre back. I never have. And I was expecting Timber to be slotted back a little bit deeper, to be honest with you, not playing as high, to have Mascara in the central centre back. To be honest with you,
central centre back
at the beginning, quite a bit.
It was Mascara more for me.
I thought Declan dropped in. I don't know if he was more. I did think Gabby played pretty central for a lot of it.
To look at the pass map.
Yeah.
Real Michael, frustrating game, especially the shot Rice could have taken instead of passing to Gyökeres. That's what I mentioned earlier. This team spend too long trying to break down the lines, and they don't have the instinct to shoot. I do think there is that is. I'm sorry to say that is a mental thing. That is literally, you need to Trossard, because Trossard has it. He literally goes, I've got the ball here. I'm not thinking about anything. You watch him do it. I'm not thinking about anything else here. I'm creating a moment of separation. I'm having a shot. Eze needs to refine that. Gyökeres has that as well, but he doesn't get the ball enough. Declan needs to find that because he has enough shots from the top of the box and places and locations where he gets into where he should do that. Zubimendi has that at times, but there's too many players who, when they're in those positions, they still want to pass. We've said this for so long. Third 3 deck, we score 1 open goal in the first 30 minutes. I don't understand that.
The 3rd of December, we scored only 1 open play goal in the first 30 minutes. Maybe? I don't know.
Kieran, explain that. Sorry, sir. A little bit confused about that one. Thank you for the super chat, but maybe try and explain it for us. Jin, regarding intensity after scoring, do you think it's a mental block on the player's side? Mikel doesn't seem like a coach that wants to ease off when going ahead. Yeah, possibly.
We had this conversation in 2022. Don't you remember that the line kept dropping? Like our defensive line?
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of issues with that. And I do think it's the players, personally. I don't think that Mikel wants that. Look, my biggest questions are the press, mate. Like, I think our press hasn't been good enough the last, 3 weeks, I would say. Like, when you look at that cluster of results, generally speaking, there's been a lot of issues that we've already talked about as far as the technical level, on the ball. But then when we struggle with that, why don't you go to your bread and butter? Like the press in terms of creating chances and being a little bit more aggressive man to man. And to me, that could be a fitness thing of the squad.
I think it is. To me, I think when you're playing with Madueke, not Saka, when you're playing with Eze, not Odegaard, when you're playing with a Gyökeres rather than Havertz, I think that's that machine that we refer to is with those guys. And I don't think the other guys have quite got that. Madueke is late a lot. He's late a lot to the press. And Mikel, we've seen it a lot in him complaining about that. Liam did actually get back to us and tell us what it was. Where was it? Sorry, not Liam. Kieran. We scored once since the 3rd of December from open play in the first 30 minutes. Okay, interesting. Yeah, maybe there's some numbers to look into that. Is Saka worth 300k if he can't get fit or impact? Saka is worth 300k. He needs to get fit, and he's not had enough impact, but he is worth that money. I wouldn't ask George for his opinion. I know it. Guess who started the 2 wins? Havertz is it. Havertz is it. I really hope he's not out for too long. Let's hope it's only a few games. Why don't we start Eze at left wing? It's driving me nuts.
Because
I don't think you dropped Trossard.
Yeah, in such excellent form.
Yeah, I don't think you dropped Trossard. Not for me. Thank you, George. Either you play through the press or you go over it. You can't just keep turning the game into volleyball. I think that was the thing this evening. It's And we knew we couldn't go over it. Brentford knew we couldn't go over it, so they kept asking us to go over it, and we needed to be braver to carry through it or pass through it, and we were not. Ali Deary, why is everyone so confident we'll win the league? Explain. City adding Gehi and so many gives them the advantage. Our technical level has been poor. There's been a lot of doom on this podcast, George. Let's do some positivity. The reason I'm confident is I look at the rest of the fixtures. We go to Wolves away. We go to Spurs. We're in complete disarray. We've seen we're better than Chelsea, and we got them at home. Brighton away is a difficult game. We've got Everton at home, Bournemouth at home. City away is obviously tough. Newcastle at home, Fulham at home, West Ham away, Burnley at home, Crystal Palace away. There's only a few games there that I'm looking at and thinking that's a really tough one. And I've said that this isn't post hoc analysis. I said this on the on a few podcasts before. The Brentford game was always going to be tough. That was one I was looking at going, that is going to be a really, really tough match. Under the lights, Thursday evening type of game. The City game's another one. The Brighton game's another one. But other than that, the other ones are, on paper at least, winnable. They should be winnable. So that's why I'm confident.
I'm down after the result that I feel like we could have done better, but just factually, those fixtures are a massive benefit to us. They are good fixtures. You don't have to rewrite history. And, I think even at the start of the season, we said that, that run in is nice as far as you look at it. And so to me, you have to be the protagonist. If you're going to ask the team to do that, then you got to show a little bit of chest yourself as an Arsenal fan. I'm sorry. Like I'm annoyed. I'm disappointed, and it's going to be difficult to do that. But just factually, you got to show some chest yourself, because you look at those fixtures, we have the team to do it. And I'm not going to sit here, and we've talked about it, how there's no excuses on this season. And I don't think that you get excuses now because you've got a result that, you're disappointed in. Fundamentally, this is a team that's got goals in it. It's a team that is complete. It's got the best squad in the league right now. And it's one of those things in which we've had consistent problems because we're not a perfect team. But I don't think a perfect team is needed to win the league this year. You have to be the most perfect team this year. And to me, we are and have performed as the most perfect team. Not that we are perfect, but the most perfect team in the league.
As I keep saying, the least imperfect, I think is maybe the better way of saying it. And I think I still feel that. And I think the stress and the fear of the 4 points and City, etc. I do hear, but it's with the caveat that this isn't a City team that's going to go and win 12 games in a row now. They've got their next games at their next games at Newcastle at home. They've got to go away to Ellen Road. They've got to go away to Stamford Bridge. They've got to go away to the Hill, Dickinson. They've got to go away to Bournemouth. They've got to play us. There's some big games for them. They've got to play Brentford as well. So, there's some big... This isn't a league or a City team that is going to do what they did in 23-24. I'm sorry, they just aren't. So, I still think we're the least imperfect. We are imperfect, as we spoke about this evening. But, hopefully with Havertz and Saka back fit and Eza, hopefully fixing some of these dynamics with Saliba back as well, maybe we can pick things up again. Why does City look so fluid and technical than us? Watch them defend, man. Honestly, like watch how City defend runners from their midfield and transitions. That will just go. If you want to feel better this evening, go watch that. We have our flaws. We've spoken about our flaws. They have their flaws. Go watch them. Let's all take a breath. This was always going to be a hard game. I'm not surprised it's Brentford that makes Arsenal stumble today. Let's look onwards. It is also, Joe, I know no one's going to enjoy this, or many people. It is also a point. Like, it is a point. We've gained a point. Like, it feels like a loss. It really does. And I was very upset at the top of the podcast, and I still am with a lot of the stuff that we've done this evening, because it feels like a lot of it was in our hands. But it is a point. It's not a loss. And it does extend the lead from 3 points to 4, and City have got to go out there against Newcastle and do the business on all 4 fronts as much as we have. So, yeah. Luca, thank you for super chat. Very kind. Similar to Dinero 10. Thank you so much for your super chat. Very kind. Arteta's just done the "we had a chance with Gabby" thing. Oh God, has he? It's such a shame players' mentality drop. Arteta's tactics suck and injuries arise at the same time. Let me just look up that quote to see what he said. Arteta, Martinelli. We had a massive chance with Gabriel Martinelli, but it wasn't meant to be. Okay, I'll look at that properly. That could be. That could not be that what he means, but it's just
He tends to do that a lot.
He's done
and
it
it's
before.
not helpful.
He does it specifically with Martinelli as well.
He has a thing with Martinelli, in my opinion. It's like, do you remember like when the documentary showed like he had a thing with Nuno Tavares?
Yeah.
Like
I remember after Atalanta, he said something. It was last season in the Champions League a couple of times. He said it. Final one from Simple Game Live says, I know I might be nitpicking, but I felt like Timber should have been more selfish and gone for the shot, but overall very slow today. Yes, spoken about Timber and spoken about tempo. So hopefully you got what you wanted. Thank you so much for your super chat. And thank you all for joining us and for your super chats as well. Let's try and sum up. Let's try and sum up where we're at. I'm really disappointed in this evening because I felt as though this was an opportunity to show our teeth, and we didn't do that. I felt this game was there to win, even though it was tough, and we didn't do that. And I think a lot of that was down to the tactical stuff that we've gone through in terms of the lack of carry through the center of the park, the tempo issues, the lack of a reference and the lack of closeness in the reference, lack of bravery on the ball, the lack of combinations and connections on the side and the execution. So lots of tactical stuff to go through, but also a team that, for periods of that game, we should have made it count. Martinelli, not to be Arteta, but we could be sat here with a winner from Martinelli, right? It puts us 4 points ahead of Man City. It's all still in our hands. And they will not win every single game from here on out. The thing this Arsenal team is good at, I will say, is learning. They do learn. Not in maybe the attacking dynamics areas, but they respond. They do consistently respond, and they have consistently responded next season. So I suspect Wigan will probably spank them, and we'll probably beat who we're playing after that. We'll probably beat Wolves 5-0 or something, and then we'll be back to the same issues. But we do respond, and we do tend to fix things before we create another issue. But I'm not going to keep tracking the team. So yeah, I expect they know that wasn't good enough. Players like Declan Rice, etc., will respond, and we move. George.
Yeah, I just think aggression into like stick your chest out a bit and come hit me. Like there's a little bit of that mentality, to be honest with you right now. Like I'm just the type of person that when the chips are down, I try to rise, and that's what this team needs to do. It's as simple as that. And no one's gonna. I hate this mentality that success needs to just be given. Success has been always earned in this life, no matter what. So it was gonna be hard. It is hard, and I don't think that means then that you're just automatically going to fail. Just sit up, be accounted for with your team, be accounted for with the fans, as far as we know that they can be better and you can do better. And I believe that they can do better and be better. And we are still in a very good position, just factually. And I look at those fixtures, and there is a way for us to have a very different conversation in a week. And it's up to the team to be able to show that. So be aggressive in taking your destiny. Don't let it just come to you.
Yeah. And I think this team, it sounds like they had a bit of a reset after United. And I hope we can refine that, because we can't, we need to figure out a way. We need to go and grab this title.
Yeah.
And at the minute, we're kind of allowing it to happen a little bit too much, which is something, I've said before. I think we can just allow a little bit more, not force, but there's always a balance. Maybe we've gone back too far the other way. Okay. Still top, still in every competition. Wigan next. We'll spank them 10-0, and Jamie Carragher's son's going to be crying on the pitch. And then we'll go beat Wolverhampton Wanderers, and City will have lost 5 times before then in 2 games. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us live. Thank you for joining us if you're watching us on the rewatch. Thank you, George, for being here.
Thank you, good sir.
Thank you for joining us on TDK Plus. Make sure you check out the knockabout that came out yesterday. George and I will be doing. We're going to do a rewatch, but we'll do a scouted episode tomorrow. So if you're a director, or if you're a director on Patreon or YouTube, we'll put out a poll for you guys to vote on who you want to see us scouted on. Could be our player, could be a lone watch, could be anything. Could be one area's 2 minutes at I'll say. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks for keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. This was one kind of queue the ladies thoroughly enjoyed.
Electrifying. Electrifying. Inspiration.